Hey everybody, we're back, and I'm so excited for this video. I've got statistics for you from just under 15 events. We're going to be looking at tier lists, we're going to be looking at deck lists. We have everything you need to get caught up in the meta. Make sure to leave a like right now, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content. Now let's jump into it. From early on and beyond the gates, Warren Mack was absolutely dominating. Robin Hood was definitely a problem, but with the errata, things have really opened up, and now there's all sorts of heroes that are gunning for that top spot. So we'll see right now, has one of these overtaken Waru, or was it able to hold on to that title? This is a quick breakdown of hero placements, basically. So these are like top 8 percentages for each of the heroes from before the nerf. So you can see Waru, 58%, just under 2/3 of top cut spots were going to this hero, which is even more incredible because the usage rates were actually pretty low. So yeah, the conversion there was insane. Basically, Fen was one of the only things that could keep up with it, and Afanis, and yeah, you kind of go down really fast from there. But what do things look like now? So this new pie chart, it's for the first 2 weeks after the errata, basically the last 2 weeks of November. Traced came up 33%, the new leader. I was not surprised by this at all. Before the errata, I always felt like Trace was the second best deck in the game that was just completely unplayable and not an option because of its horrible Waru matchup. But with that hero out of the way, I guess things just really opened up, and yeah, now Trace has cemented itself on the top. Next, we see Sigismar and Afanis duking it out for second most representation. Yeah, both of these heroes performing really well, and you'll notice there are quite a few others, though, taking their small slivers out of the pie underneath. So I feel like we're definitely seeing more heroes that have been able to top in this new format. I think that's definitely exciting for the game, and yeah, just bringing us a lot of variety. Tasia finally making it into the top. It was one of those decks that I felt like was really strong. I was putting it in my top 6, but it just couldn't find a way to win before Waru, but now it's been doing really well, so glad to see that as well. Even like Lyra got 8% there between Nevenka and Fen. Yeah, pretty exciting. But I want to take a second now and look at the most recent 2 weeks of December. I know now when I'm posting this video, we're a couple, maybe like 1 or 2 events have happened that aren't going to be included in these statistics. But yeah, let's see, how has the meta changed and how have people adapted after the first couple of weeks in more recently in December. So this is our new pie chart. See a lot of similarities here, but there are some like interesting changes. Trey's still holding on to the top spot, just losing a couple percentage points, but wow, Sigismar really cementing itself here now as the second place hero. Top 2, it's basically the same as Trace for representation. That 3%, that probably is like one less top total or something. So yeah, Sigismar really showing up strong in December. I think that Afanis has probably a tougher Sigismar matchup. Off you go, and Beauty Sleep and things aren't as good when the characters are just a bunch of tokens and there's so many of them. And so, yeah, maybe that's one reason Afanis has gone down a little bit in success. Tasia, right around there too, still a top 4 hero. But actually, pretty interesting to me is Waru now 7%, the 5th place hero. So I think that that's pretty interesting. I feel like originally maybe there was like an overcorrection and people were like, okay, Waru's not as good as it used to be. I want to try something else. I'm ready for a break. But now people are starting to realize, this hero, it's still pretty good and starting to get results again, even with pretty low play rates. Some people are making it back into the top with Waru. So yeah, I definitely think that's a hero to keep your eye on. It still has a great Trace matchup, and so yeah, I don't think that anyone should count Waru out. Definitely, yeah, starting to see that one on the rise, as well as Nevenka. You'll notice it had pretty good topping percentages, both of these time ranges that we're looking at. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. It's a hero I was definitely sleeping on, but the ability can be really strong if you get the right roles, and there's a lot of good tools for the hero. So yeah, excited to see that one popping up as well. There are a couple less heroes topping. I think people are starting to figure out what's good and switching off some of the other heroes, but yeah, still a pretty diverse meta. So now let's jump into the tier list. We've seen the topping rates for each of the heroes, but which of them are actually the best? I've got the tiers laid out here, S through F, but I do feel like now with the nerf to Robin, I don't think that there are any S tier heroes. In my mind, to be S tier, a hero would have to be favored into every other deck, and I just don't think that's the case right now. There are several top decks that all have pretty good matchup spreads and can really hold their own against each other. So yeah, I'm gonna just be removing that S here, and we'll now start placing these on this list. I'm gonna do 2 tier lists. First, we're gonna be looking at decks with no uniques, average uniques, how do the heroes kind of line up against each other, and then we're going to come back and make some adjustments where I'm going to show you my tier list for if each hero had the absolute best possible uniques, where would they fall? I feel like both of them are pretty interesting for most players. You might not have great uniques, so maybe you can kind of look at this first one and get an idea of what you could play. But for those really competitive players, I think the second one will be helpful so that you can get an idea of what you might be facing at the top tables or what could give you the best shot at victory. And I'll also be showing deck lists as well for my top picks for these tier lists. So starting out here first for no uniques, I think Traced really has an exceptional card pool available to him. It's actually going to be my only hero I'm going to put in the A tier for no uniques. Yeah, it's so efficient. There's so much draw, and so it's really easy to get your powerful cards like Bravo's Bastion consistently. I think this is one reason Traced is topping so frequently, is that most of the cards you need are just commons and rares, and so this deck is pretty accessible. I think that's why we see it being played a lot and why people are able to top with it even without crazy uniques. Next, we're going to be bringing in the B tier. I've got Sigismar here, Fen, Tasia. I feel like Sigismar also can be really good without uniques, and Fen as well. I actually don't even think there are necessarily that crazy of uniques for Fen, so yeah, kind of like Traced, I actually think both of those heroes, when you add the uniques to them, they don't necessarily even get that much better. Most of their strength comes from their core package, but that is strong for Fen, and for Sigismar, it definitely is as well. For Tasia, I was kind of teetering here from like the worst of the B tier to the best of the C tier. The uniques really help it out to be a little stronger, and so maybe this is like a slight overestimation, but the core is really good. The hardest part is that you're just like about like 6 cards shy, like the last 6 out of 39 slots from having like a complete strong deck. So every once in a while you'll kind of draw those weaker cards and have slightly worse hands, but it is still a great hero overall. Don't worry too much about the specific placement of my heroes amongst the tiers. I feel like I did think about it a little bit and kind of just put my like first impression in the order, but yeah, honestly, the groups are pretty loose, and especially in this game where you change one unique in your deck and now like the power level goes up and down, I think it's really hard to exactly pinpoint any hero in a tier list because yeah, it's like you just change one card and now the possibilities have adjusted. We've seen in other games, or like even with like the nerf to Robin, you'll notice like you get rid of one card and you can totally upset a meta. So basically with uniques, that's possible on an individual level. So this is always just kind of like a rough estimate. I'd look at the top and be like, this is like A tier, this is going to be your I don't know, like the best options available. B tier are ones that can do like pretty well into the A tier. They definitely have a shot at taking it down sometimes, and they are probably gonna more often than not be all of the heroes below them. Next, C tier, I would be like, they'll definitely also be able to take games from the A and B tier, and they'll probably beat anything in the D tier. And then yeah, D tier and F tier, I'm gonna say for those that like they just don't really have a shot at consistently beating tiers A through C. And yeah, for the F tier especially, I feel like they're definitely going to take games like every once in a while, and like they can be fun to play, or with like the right uniques when we get to that tier list, they'll have the potential maybe to be a little better than I'm ranking them, but yeah, I would just say more often than not, they're kind of coming from behind if they're going to be wanting to take out the higher tiers. Here for C tier, we have a Faunus here. It is really performing well, but without uniques, I think it struggles a lot. In this like Spellslinger archetype, you only play a couple characters, and when you don't have those uniques that are like a really strong character, you lose a lot of like the potential. Waru as well. I think now that we lost Robin, without good uniques, you just don't quite have enough cards to fill out the deck. I feel like Sticky Note Seals also was an obvious 3 of before, but that's not really necessary now. So we almost lost like 6 cards. And so yeah, the last spots just kind of being some random filler commons and things, it definitely brought down the power level a little bit, even though the rest of the core is still really strong. So yeah, I don't feel like it would consistently outperform the heroes I've put above it. Kojo honestly is pretty strong with no uniques. It doesn't always have the craziest uniques either to really change things, but yeah, the aggression can be good. You can definitely take games off of anything. Feel pretty similar for like the rest of these other ones here. They're all pretty fair, but they're definitely going to be like more consistent or powerful than what we've got going on in D tier. Here we've got Rin, we've got Arjun as well as another Muna hero. We have Basinda and Lindawa. I feel like you could definitely do all right in like a smaller setting with these heroes. But yeah, without uniques and things, I think there's just basically like a superior option in that faction for all 4 of them. You pretty much would just play Tasia instead of these, so it's hard to justify them. Maybe you can go for like a festival angle with Arjun or Rin, but because of like removal being able to just totally wipe that strategy out, it's just not super viable. I also feel like Lindawa, it's a little predictable, since if you're going for like a strategy where you boost up the Maw, your opponent, they're going to know it's always going to be on the same side, and they can kind of just play around it by going to the other side. And yeah, without the uniques that can really like cheat the mana and get you like extra advantage, I think that the package is just a little too fair right now. Basira as well, you go pretty tall with boosting characters, and so you can lose hard to removal, and yeah, you aren't doing anything too crazy without uniques, so I wouldn't say that it's better than any of the heroes we put above it. That just leaves the F tier. We've got Etsadi, we've got Gorong, and we have Iraq here. Yeah, it's hard to put anything in F. I'd almost say that you could probably say every hero in Altered is at least D, but I felt like when my tiers got too big that this wasn't maybe as helpful anymore, and so I do want to try and differentiate a little bit for anyone who wants to kind of get a little bit more information. And so I'm putting these 3 in the bottom. I feel like Golrong and Etsadi especially, they're just missing something right now. Like their package, it doesn't feel complete. For Etsadi, you just can't even always ramp consistently, and when you do, there's not enough payoffs. For Golrong, you're basically just trying to survive until the late game, but it's pretty hard right now. Even if you get there, you're maybe not even that much stronger than some of the other best decks. So all of these are just a little underwhelming to me. Iraq, honestly, like there's a ton of potential there as well. You can definitely play any of these heroes to great effect if you really put your mind to it, but I don't know, especially with the zeros and things, a lot of times you're just losing a couple extra expeditions early, and it's hard to recover from that. Let's jump though now. That's enough of looking at kind of like the base of each of the heroes. Most of the time you're going to be playing with uniques. You have to expect that some of your opponents in big tournaments are going to have the crazy uniques. So let's see how these heroes are going to fall when we look at each of them with the S tier unique, essentially like the best ones I've seen possible for those heroes. We're going to start from the bottom this time. F tier, I'm going to keep it Sadi and Iraq here. I don't think there aren't uniques that can make enough of a difference to get him out of here. Asadi has some crazy uniques, some that ramp 2 mana. Those are going to be super good for him, but you still don't have quite a good enough payoff, even with those, I think, to beat out some of the other decks, especially once they have good uniques as well. For Iraq, a lot of times maybe you're going to want a unique where you can get a benefit every time you play a card with a 0 stat, but there's just not anything that you can really capitalize off of enough right now for them. My D tier now, I have Golrung moved up. There are some crazy Golrung uniques. I saw one of the best uniques I've ever seen that fits perfectly into Golrung recently. I think that it could at least be D tier with some of those. The ones that are really good for Golrung are ones that basically have the open the gates effect on a body. It's like 5 cost for a character like the council or something that has its own effects, plus it'll be like summon 4 tokens. If you had 3 of those or something else, it just really spams a lot. Sometimes there are even Athenas that you can use over and over that work perfectly with like some of the permanents that already support Golrung. I think you could definitely get something going there. Arzen has some pretty good uniques for like Quetzalcoatl and things, and I don't know, the rest of them, they all can do cool things now, but I'm going to keep these in the D tier because I feel like what we're going to be seeing in C, B, and A, they're just that much better. But yeah, there are definitely cool things going on for each of these heroes. Sierra and Subhash, it's hard to rank them that high when there's just like such a direct comparison to Trace, which pretty much outshines them in all areas. It's more consistent and probably more powerful. So maybe one of these should be like a C or something, but it's just hard for me to know where to put them when I just know that I like Trace is just clearly above them. I think Subhash runs out of gas a little bit more than Trace since you are using your cards faster and not getting the draws, and Sierra just doesn't have enough cards that combo well with her hero power yet. Moving to C tier, we've got Kojo. I have it at the top. I think that Kojo, honestly, with the absolute best uniques, might even be B tier, but one of the best uniques I've ever seen for Kojo. I've only seen that effect combination once ever, so I don't know if I can really rate it considering it would have like 3 of those or something, because it just almost seems impossible. Some of the other heroes we're going to look at in the A and B tier, the best uniques for them are definitely more plentiful, and it's been a lot easier for people to get 3 of them. But yeah, Kojo can still be really good with powerful uniques. Oftentimes people are going to pay it with like the Foundry, the Axiom Bastion, and then you can just get some crazy uniques that have really good effects when played from reserve, but now you get them for super cheap from the hand. Fen, honestly, mostly just in C tier because the uniques available aren't often even that crazy. I don't know if you got that much stronger when you add in uniques compared to some of the ones in the A tier and B tier, which like things really take off when you put them in. Pretty similar for Nevenka. For like Fen, you're probably going to want to run something that like gets a benefit for having a lot of cards in the reserve, maybe something that boosts itself for those, or maybe like something that gives everything fleeting at dusk. For Nevenka, you might run something that has an effect every time you roll a dice, or that adds 1 to all of your rolls, like Martingale. The latter, though, is pretty hard to find, and the first one, it's hard to roll dice enough right now with the card pool to really get advantage out of it, but I'm sure things align sometimes. Lindua, people might think this is a little low, but when it tops, it's always just like 1 person or something, and I feel like you're just like almost there, where like some of the A tier and B tiers, it's like whatever hand you draw, you're feeling good. I feel like with Lindua, you're going to have a little bit of disparity between hands. You're going to have some awkward hands. I think the potential is definitely there, but I just don't feel like it is it's just not quite keeping up with some of the other heroes, but it can definitely work really well if you get some of those like Moonlight Jellyfish or things that are like 1 cost from hand, sacrifice themselves for like a crazy effect. Those can definitely put you up there, but I feel like C tier is the right place. And honestly, the same for Akeisha. I feel like there aren't that crazy of Akeisha uniques right now. People look for, I don't know, just some of the same stuff as like a Faunus, like spell recursion, maybe a Sakurabru that has like an additional effect, or a Baku that makes your opponent discard 2 cards, or maybe like a cheaper version of Isatok. But I feel like the package is just missing a little bit, and while it does top some tournaments and skill players can do pretty well with it, yeah, I think the ones we're going to be looking at in B and A just are quite a bit better than what we've seen so far. So yeah, bringing in the first for the B tier, even with the nerfs and erratas and things, I feel like Waru is still a very good deck. It's actually my main hero right now still, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I feel like the rest of the package has always been really good as well, even outside of Robin. I like that you get a ton of draw so that you can have some extra cards in your hand, which gives you the freedom to hold on to like removals and things until the right moment. And I also just feel like you have some great tools with like a really cheap removal in teamwork training and just a lot of other good stuff at your disposal. We're going to show you a list now for each of the B tier and the A tier heroes. I'm going to pull most of them from events recently. This is actually like one of the only ones that's not. This one is my list. I got a 14 win streak on Board Game Arena with it. I did have a couple of top 8 Waru lists, but I just didn't think any of them could quite do justice to the hero like the one I'm playing right now. This one has been very strong for me. It's pretty similar to the one I was playing in Gamers Guild Arizona, but yeah, I just haven't really had a chance to play any events. I tried to sign up for one recently, but the time zones are always pretty rough for America, and so hopefully I'll get to prove this eventually and enter into an event. But yeah, you're seeing a little bit of my secrets here with this. I feel like though at this point I don't know if I'll be playing in anything before Trial by Frost. So I feel like it's time to just kind of show this to the world. I'm pretty proud with how it's been working, and I do feel like I honestly can keep up with pretty much any deck right now. And so yeah, I definitely think this deserves to be in the B tier. Maybe it'll be a hero that we'll see more of moving forward. You can see here with the Frog Princes and the Kokobo, those are like the two types of uniques you usually look for Waru. Either something that summons a bunch of tokens or something that boosts your whole board. Yeah, both are super good. Since I have the frogs, I can get away here with running a ton of really like cheap 1-drops, and then when I play them, I get another token as well, just kind of getting a lot of stats for the mana that I'm spending. I have Baba Yagas in here. I've been messing around with the last rare spots a lot. Sometimes it's the third mechanic. Sometimes I run more Sandman and things. But I've kind of found that like when I don't get the best cards, I just want to draw into them. And so I've got the Baba Yagas. I do like a lot of 1-drops here, and I run the mechanics to replace the Frog Princes. So you might not need them if you don't have unique Frog Princes. But yeah, this list, it still works really well. You've got a ton of great effects here, a great trace matchup still, and yeah, this is definitely a hero to still be looking out for. All right, for the next B tier hero with S tier uniques, Traced is gonna be up here, but it's moved down a little bit, you might notice, from being the only A tier to now just kind of being amongst the B tiers. I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that there aren't that many crazy Axiom uniques. Some of the other heroes got a little bit luckier with the unique spread for Beyond the Gates. And so, yeah, while Traced is still really good, I don't know if the power level has increased that much. We do see some impressive examples here, but honestly, these are pretty rare, and it'd be pretty hard to find something like this. And even they aren't like quite as busted as some of the cards we're still going to be seeing in a minute. For here, we got like Bravo's Tracer. You can put in a card from your hand in reserve if you do resupply. That's a pretty a pretty popular effect to find for Traced, but it's not really doing a ton to give you a lead on the board. But it's always great to get your hero power online super fast. So yeah, it's definitely going to accelerate your game plan and be pretty impressive. I like this. You may send a character to reserve on the Haven Bouncer. That's a pretty rare text line, but it can be super good. Take out like anchored characters, sleeping bureaucrats, all sorts of good stuff. And then this Croupier being able to take out a permanent. This is like a really nice toolbox here for Yolokin. This is the first place from one of the AWOLs, but it's actually like the first place from like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, this player has topped very consistently with this hero, and I honestly feel like, yeah, this deck is super well refined. Just like one less Stargazer, running 2 of those, and running one Chronicler. In my list, I would probably just run 3 Stargazer, but I feel like, yeah, having the flexibility there, if you drew like both or something to choose, isn't bad at all. All of the rares, the other ones are like, I feel like almost required. Yeah, Ada, Salvager, and Frankenstein are just so good at keeping your resources cycling, and so you can just play like from the reserve over and over each day. Got like a 1 of tech Foundry Armorer. I think that is probably about the most you'd ever want. It can be a cool power play in the late game, but it can be pretty awkward early on before you can put cards in the reserve easily. Yeah, a lot of good stuff going in here. Originally, I don't think Yolokin was playing Boom and the extra Sabotage permanent, but they've come in recently. So yeah, just running some extra tech probably as the meta's been changing. Often people play Hooked though too as like a one of, and that can be an interesting choice. Okay, that takes us to Basira. It's going to be the last of the B tier heroes. I feel like this might be a surprise to some people. Basira hasn't really topped that much. It's not that great without uniques, but I feel like with the absolute best uniques, this hero just gets crazy. And maybe it's not even the hero that's crazy, it's just that those specific uniques can really carry hard. But yeah, I definitely feel like with the right cards, you can do really well with this, and it could deserve to be in the B tier. It is hard because some heroes like Trace that I was talking about that are really good without uniques, everyone can kind of play Traced. And so a lot of people play it. It tops a lot. Basira, on the other hand, maybe only a couple of people have the best cards for it. And so when barely anyone's able to play it, it's going to be a lot less likely to top just because of that. And so, yeah, it's really different from a lot of other games where all heroes can kind of be equally accessible. With these uniques that just put certain ones over the top, it makes it hard to like say like if tournament results actually reflect, I feel like, the power of the existing decks. But let's look into this list. So Foundry Armor, you might have noticed, this one is the one that gets really crazy with Basira. There's a text line that appears on uniques on just Foundry Armor that says when a character you control gains one or more boosts, create a 2/2/2 robot. So the Brass Bug. Yeah, that's just kind of incredible. With Basira, you get an extra boost when you boost something. It's really easy to get like 3-4 Brass Bugs with this, and at that point you're getting like an extra like 4 to 8 worth of stats from one unique. It just totally changes the math in your games. If you have these and you draw them, it gets really easy to 2-0 your opponent, possibly even 2 days in a row and things. And so, yeah, it's just a whole different game when you have these cards. The ones here are especially good. Skycrier was able to get top 15 on Board Game Arena with this. And yeah, Skycrier is also like a consistent tournament topping player. Pretty much all of the ones that we're looking at here, they either from like the hand or the reserve or both have the option to boost something themselves. Yet, I mean, like this is like an S plus unique lineup right here. It's tough because like if you had ones that don't boost themselves, then like those might even now at some point be like an S or an S minus or something. But like with these specific ones here, it's like day one with the one in the middle, you can put a card from your hand in reserve, then give something a boost, then you boost something with Basira. All of a sudden you have 2 Brass Bugs this and 2 boosts to go around. It's pretty easy to like even from the first day 2-0 your opponent with these. So yeah, these armorers, they're kind of crazy. They just totally change the deck. But yeah, with these, I feel like it'd be really hard for any of the decks in the lower tiers to keep up. I don't think, though, this can be an A tier because the rest of the package isn't quite good enough. And if you don't draw the Foundry Armorers, you're just back to like that B, C tier Basira, like kind of something down there. And so while they are pretty good, I think it's appropriate to keep this in the B tier. I kind of ordered these two by how I would think they fit amongst the B tier. I feel like because the War Room matchup into Traced is so good, it's a little hard for me to put Trace before them. I also think that, in my mind, Waru's a little more consistent because with Traced, you just have some polarizing games where it's like you get double Bastion, it's the most insane thing in the world, but other times you don't draw any. And so, yeah, I like Waru personally a little more because I feel like you're not maybe at the mercy of like the randomness quite as much, but Traced is still like very consistent and powerful, even regardless of some of that, do you get the Bastion or not. And then yeah, Basira, while the uniques are crazy, I think that it's just going to be less consistent than the previous two and kind of more reliant on a very specific card. So I think it's a low B tier, but could easily, with a good hand, take games for any of the heroes we're going to see on this list. Which takes us now to the A tier. We're going to be starting things out with Sigismar. This hero has some pretty good uniques as well. You can see here on this top lineup, often what you're going to want to look for is when another non-token character joins your expeditions, create one, maybe even two Ortus tokens. And so I think that often the best would either be a card that creates one token in either expedition, like of your choice, or you can find some that are two in a specific expedition. They have like their different uses. I actually like though this mechanic here in the middle. It's pretty cool because you have the ability to like have the council's effect, so people won't want to play on the side this is played on. But then you're going to be summoning like 1/1/1 tokens in your companion expedition. So if you play this on the hero side, you can make them not want to play on the hero side. But then when they go to the companion side, you'll be getting free tokens there and kind of just put them in like pinch them in between a hard place, no matter what they do. I feel like with these uniques, suddenly you're just basically caught up to Traced. When they play the Bastion, the cards they play from reserve get a boost for like one worth of stats. But now when you have these as well, all of a sudden, any card you play, not even just from reserve, but the characters from your hand as well, you're getting a 1/1/1. So at that point, you play these out for 2 days in a row. You've just totally matched the Traced. Some people even run like the Keylon Burst to be able to remove the Bastions and things. But yeah, you've got other good spells being used here. Possibly like Sticky Note Seals for the Mirror, for Sigismar's running like permanents or even just random Lyra festivals and things. With the token spam from your uniques, charge is just so much better now. So while that is even powerful without uniques, when you get the extra characters on the board, it just gets so easy to 2-0 with the charge. Teamwork Training is just always like a great value removal card that pretty much always removes something that your opponent spent extra mana on. Yeah, this deck is just pretty efficient and consistent now. Ozma is still a great draw, and you also have a lot more reactive tools with this hero. You've got like plenty of removal and sabotage, and yeah, here throwing in the bureaucrats from Waru, so it's like if you ever do lose an expedition, you're getting a great effect. I feel like as well, since you have so many cheap characters, you can just play your turn slower than your opponent and always get the last word in. Maybe even throw down the big permanents, and you can totally just like blow your opponent out if they don't have a removal. Some people run the Bastion, but others here like Grand Endeavor is great as well. You put this down, and if you get it out early because of like a mechanic or something, that's pretty crazy. Here though, this list isn't running those and is not focusing on it as much, but even still, if you put this out and you can get like 2 or 3 movements from it, it completely makes up for any lost tempo from the day it was played. Yeah, this is a very strong hero as well. Takes us now to a Faunus with another hero with like a playset of uniques with basically the same effect and even the same name here. This is pretty much what people have realized is the best unique for Faunus. You saw me feature this deck a little while ago on my channel. So these Spindle Harvesters, if I have 1 or more boosts, you may return a spell from your reserve to your hand at dusk. There are a lot of other characters that get this text line as well, but it's sometimes just best on the Spindle Harvester since you can also get anchored. And so, yeah, in combination with that, you'll be able to get the effect multiple times and take advantage of having boost from a Faunus multiple days in a row. So, yeah, these are just so good to reuse your best cards like Off You Go and Helping Hand and Beauty Sleep, all these crazy things that cost less from the hand, even Meditation Training here. Yeah, there's a lot of tools in this deck. We've got the Mage Dancer as well. It costs 1 from reserve. It draws cards. It gets boosts. There are very, very powerful turns and hands that you can get with like the right combinations of cards in this deck. And then you have things like Baba Yaga and your Magical Training as well that draw cards and let you find the best cards in your deck even if you don't open them. So this is super good. The small step, I feel like, just puts it over the top and definitely cements the spot here in the A tier, because if you even just go even with your opponent throughout the game, all of a sudden now you can just win for free by dropping that down. So Yeah, this hero, I feel like the draw makes it so you can consistently get the stuff you want. You have a ton of flexibility in your plays. The spindle harvesters just put the power level through the roof with infinite combos where you can use the meditation training over and over again and essentially have like an eternal character. Or even with helping hand, you can do a similar thing where you have to play the spindle harvesters multiple times, but you'll never run out of resources. Yeah, with the unique, Siphonis is totally crazy. I think most of the Iphanis players that we see topping that were like representing that chunk of the pie do have cards like this. It's probably a hero that if these were available to everyone, we'd even see like a lot more of it as well. This one is the second place from the celebration, but there was actually another Iphanis that won that event, and they weren't playing the Spindle Harvesters, so I definitely don't think they're required. There are plenty of other good uniques as well, but I just thought this one was an interesting one to showcase. All right, and then bringing up the last spot in the A tier, the last hero, it's actually going to be Tasia. I was saying before this one was only like maybe a B or C without uniques, but the best uniques available to this hero are just so crazy. I feel like when you have them, you're doing some of the craziest things in the game. Let's pull up the list right now. So we have this Neko, first place from one of the AWOLs. So you can see here a couple of different names, but all having some similar effects. One of my favorites is like the Muna Druid in the middle. So you give a character a boost, and then also when a character you control gains one or more boosts, if you have 3 or more characters, you can give a character with hand cost 3 or less anchored. When you play this from your hand, if you already have 2 characters out, it'll get a boost from Tasia. It gives something to boost. All of a sudden now you can actually anchor 2 characters, and you're getting some stats. So yeah, that's just super efficient. And then you can follow this up with like a Thespian, with an Ogun, with a Yongsu, and then you'll get some extra boost and even be able to anchor something again. If you have multiple of these uniques, they can actually start to anchor each other too, and then they'll never go away. Yeah, the possibilities are endless. This effect appears on a lot of different names and in a lot of different versions. You got pretty similar options as well with like spindle harvesters that anchor things if they have 2 boosts or just a lot of different things. And so, yeah, this deck, I feel like it's one of the ones I want to play that I haven't found the uniques for yet. But I've seen it win a couple of tournaments now, and most of the time when it does, it has the powerful uniques. So, yeah, it's another one where I feel like if you have the right cards, I think that this could be better than like maybe Traced and some of those C tier heroes. B tier heroes, and yeah, I don't know. You see in the bottom right too, you've got the Spindle Bastion. When you put this down, now the one answer to you of removals is not even available anymore. It's pretty interesting. I feel like you can't afford to do that normally because it's like too weak and you get behind, and then even if your opponent can't use removals, it's like you're losing anyway. But with crazy uniques, if you put that out, you can often get enough value out of the uniques that you'll win like both sides even like a couple days in a row. And so now like taking a turn off to put something like that down can be totally justifiable because like what's coming is so crazy, and without removals there's nothing your opponent can do about it. I definitely think you sometimes get messed up with this deck because you've got a lot of moving parts here. You've got a couple of like removals between Beauty Sleep and the Reaping, and so it's like you could get a bad hand where you draw them in the permanents or harvest and not enough characters. You could get hands where you have like Ogun but not the plants and things. So maybe this one does belong in like third place behind Afonist and Sigismar. I think those probably are like the best of the A tier, but everything is so fluid right now. You change like one unique in your deck, and then like maybe you're popping up and down amongst like the other heroes in the area. So I think don't worry too much about specific ordering again amongst these tiers, but I think it does give a pretty generally good idea of about on average where each hero is going to fall when you have some pretty good uniques. I especially say like the top 6 are going to be continuing to dominate until we get new cards from Trial by Frost. And yeah, the ones below them, while they could have some sporadic tops, there's no way they'll be able to consistently outperform these top 6 heroes. It's been a ton of fun making this video. It's really interesting to dive into the stats. If you stuck around this long, definitely leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll have more content like this in the future. Especially watch out for an exciting video coming up for the holiday season. I'm going to be posting a video with the giveaway, a little bit of Trial by Frost related stuff going to be in the giveaway, and I'm just super excited to be a part of this game as it continues to grow and flourish. I feel like, yeah, I really am still enjoying playing it, even this far into the expansion. It's still a lot of fun. I got to go to a locals yesterday, and I brought that Waru deck I was thinking about on the list. Instead of putting 14 win streak BGA, I was going to be like first place locals. But yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a joke there, because I mean I only had to play like 3 games, but I mean, that was a blast. I stayed up till like 5 a.m. afterwards, like hanging out with my friends, playing other games and talking. I definitely see this game bringing people together, and I'm, yeah, just so excited for where it goes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.